My entitled brother demands that he's gonna take my dog on a fishing trip, claiming that he deserves to have time with this dog, all because he was the original owner. But after picking up his slack as well as taking care of this dog when he left it alone and basically did nothing for him, I decided to run away to my fiance's place in order to prevent my brother from taking my dog without my permission. And I'm honestly so frustrated by this situation that right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of context, I'm a 31-year-old female and I have a man-child entitled brother who's 26 years old who lives in the house that I co-own with my mom. My mom's told him that he has until May 31st to move out. I've been anxiously waiting for him to leave, doing my best to bide my time, but I have finally reached the end of my rope, and it's over something that I'm not sure is the straw or the log that broke the camel's back. Last night, while I was in bed, my entitled brother informed me that he would be taking my dog Spot for 3 days on some fishing trip. I told him there's no way he could do that, and he said he wasn't asking, he was telling me. He said he's my dog too, and that he is entitled to take him wherever he pleases. But here's the thing though, my entitled brother demanded a dog, and I begged my mom not to do it. He had one previously, but he neglected it, and my mom ended up rehoming it, and he never let her hear the end of it. But of course, she caved and the same problem persisted. He just never took care of Spot. I ended up taking over his care. I paid for Spot's vet bills, I fed him, I took him to get groomed, etc. With things eventually coming to a head when we had to move in with family members, and they said we were not allowed to bring a dog. My entitled brother didn't do anything to find Spot a new home. Apparently, it was all my problem. I found him a foster home where I visited him every day after my college classes ended and was able to get him back 2 years later when we finally had a place to live again. Additionally, when I moved out of my house for a year, Spot went along with me. Spot sleeps with me every night and has my name on all of his records. He's now 10 years old and has arthritis. He takes meds for his hips and his stomach and frequently needs bathroom breaks. And to top it all off, he hates the water. So when my little brother said he wasn't asking me, he was telling me, I knew that Spot would be miserable and possibly in pain for that whole trip. He didn't ask or even mention taking Spot before, and Spot is due for a refill on his pills tomorrow. And had I known this information, I would have taken the refill a lot sooner. I tried telling him that Spot needs a lot of care, and he said, yeah, so just give me everything he needs. And I was so irritated. You wait until the night before to tell me this? Then he said something that made my blood run cold. He said to me, I could have just taken him and let you panic, but I was being nice telling you ahead of time. And honestly, that's what did it for me. I don't know why, but every alarm bell went off in my head. I grabbed my purse, I put on my slippers, and I told Spot to get in the car. I drove to my fiance's house and I slept here last night. I was going to move into my fiance's house this summer, but now I'm asking myself why in the world I'm waiting. Everyone online keeps asking me why I stay at home, and right now I can't remember any reasons I had before. I am seriously just so done. My mom is staying out of it right now, and I'm honestly glad, because I genuinely don't care what she has to say. I know she doesn't want me to go, but I just can't take my entitled brother's little power trips. He can do whatever he wants to the house, punching holes in the walls, kicking the appliances, calling the house a dump, but I draw the line at him taking my dog without my permission. That's my baby, and I'm not just gonna stand by while he does whatever he wants with my pet when I explicitly told him no, which is something he very rarely hears. Because right now I am so frustrated, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. You did the right thing by getting away from that guy and taking the dog with you. I don't know who your brother is, but he sounds like an entitled jerk. It seems like he's sitting there trying to take advantage of you and your mom and basically live in this house for as long as possible. And that's super toxic. There's no good excuse for that. So truly, I really hope you're able to get away from this guy sooner than later, because based on what you've described, this guy sounds like an absolute nightmare. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my son that I think he's taking advantage of his girlfriend? Because right now he is very upset with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my son has a baby with his ex-girlfriend. The child is 2 years old, and I don't want to go into too many details, but she baby trapped him, and it was a very toxic relationship. There was a massive issue with the paternity of my grandson, but I'm very proud of how he dealt with the situation. He never stopped loving and caring for the child, usually on his own, even when he wasn't sure if the baby was his. My son is now dating a much nicer girl that we will call Grace. Grace is not her real name. She is the best friend of of my youngest son. Grace loves children. She adores my grandson and often calls him her baby. My grandson likes her too, and it's all very adorable. I've known Grace for a long time, and I think she's just perfect. The issue is that my son has started to give her a lot of childcare responsibilities. My grandson's biological mother is hardly involved, and my son is usually co-parenting with her parents instead of her, so we have our grandson most of the time. Once, Grace spent the night in the hospital with my grandson while my son was studying for an exam, and it seems like her life is slowly starting to revolve around my grandson, as well as his naps, his feeding schedule, etc. Every free moment she has from college and work is spent with my grandson. I don't want to interfere, but I'm gonna be realistic. They have only been together for a year, and what if they don't work out in some kind of way? Then my grandson will be attached to someone he won't see anymore. Additionally, she is very young and needs to live her life instead of being a mom so young. Last week, my grandson was sick, and my son had returned from work to come and check on him. Grace was cuddling with him at this point, as she had been with him the whole day. Now, my son tried to take him, but he wanted to stay with Grace, so she said she would stay up with him and call out of work the next day. This is also not the first time she's missed work or school to care for my grandson. Grace took him upstairs, and my husband made a comment about how my son didn't need to try so hard with his ex-girlfriend anymore, especially when it comes to getting her to be a parent, when Grace was right here being his mother. My son then said Grace was a godsend because without her, he would get no sleep. Well, I took him aside, and I told him that I thought he was taking advantage of her and her time. He asked me what I meant, and I told him that at 19 years old, he was partying and having a blast every weekend, but Grace was busy caring for a sick child that wasn't even hers. I pointed out that she was missing out on work and school for him, and my son got upset and very angry with me. He also said it was good that she wasn't partying because it wasn't good or safe to do anyways. He then took Grace and his son back to his place and hasn't let me see my grandson ever since. My husband thinks I was out of line because Grace is helping our son through something difficult, and I'm starting to feel kind of bad. My son wants an apology, and he wants me to promise not to bring this up to Grace and give her any ideas. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be completely transparent because I seriously think the original poster didn't do anything wrong. It really seems like your son is absolutely taking advantage of Grace's time. He's basically just handing his son off to Grace and saying, okay, here you go, and then he goes off and does pretty much whatever he wants, instead of, I don't know, taking care of his son and making his ex-girlfriend step up and be a mom. Like, this all seems really backwards, and I think Grace is kind of stuck in the crossfire. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your son absolutely needed to hear that, whether he likes it or not. And sure, you can apologize for hurting his feelings, but in my opinion, it's not about Grace knowing how you feel. It's about your son doing the right thing. And that thing, in my opinion at least, is taking more time to take care of his son. An entitled mother uses grandma's cancer to try and guilt trip her son to essentially force him to coming over for Christmas dinner before it's too late to see grandma ever again. But in reality, grandma's doing fantastic, the chemo is working, and she is a strong woman. And now, nobody trusts this entitled mother anymore, and she's no longer invited to dinners with anyone in the family. Here's what happened. Okay, so this all happened at Thanksgiving this past year, but I never considered posting it online until recently. I've been dating my boyfriend for over 3 years now, but this story is about his entitled aunt that we will call Janet. Janet is not her real name. Janet has 2 kids, Andy and Marie, also not their real names. Janet has always been the most drama at every family gathering. She must be the center of attention and will throw a fit, cause a scene, or start crying to get there. Well, unfortunately, Janet's mother-in-law, who's my boyfriend's grandma, has cancer and has been getting chemo to try and treat it. As far as I know, it's been going very well, and she has seemed healthy, all things considered, with the family being aware of her health. During the family's Thanksgiving dinner, most of the family attended, including Janet, Andy, and his wife, and there, Andy informed his mom that he and his wife could only attend Thanksgiving, and that Christmas would be spent by his wife's family. Well, Janet did not take this well at all, and this is where the drama really starts to pop off. Janet then begins to try and use grandma's cancer as some kind of guilt trip to make Andy and his wife also come over for Christmas. She straight up lies and says that the chemo isn't working and that they are just gonna stop trying and to just let her live the last bit of life without it. She says there will only be a few months left with grandma and they should be there for her last Christmas. Janet even tried to guilt trip Andy with how much grandma had supported him, as well as the rest of the family, and how he owed it to her to be there. Well, Andy was very uncomfortable, and he and his wife left soon after that, but they did make sure they saw grandma before leaving for the night. Now, grandma is still undergoing chemo, but is doing doing quite well, and she is a very strong woman. No one really knows why Janet would make up such awful lies, or why she thought no one else would realize, but word spread really fast, and as a result, Janet was not invited to Easter dinner. Wow, Janet literally is insane. Like, who would just make up lies like that just to try and get your way? And especially about a loved one who's already going through a really rough time right now. Like, that just doesn't make any sense, and that really is like super toxic. Not to mention the fact that grandma apparently is doing great. Like, apparently she's a strong woman and the chemo is literally doing really well. So for Janet to be like, oh my god, you have to be there, it's not only really selfish, but it's also just really toxic. So it's really good that Janet was not invited to Easter dinner, and hopefully you can avoid her in the future. Because seriously, extended family like this really have a lot of things wrong with them, especially if they're willing to say such awful things about someone else in the family. My boyfriend won't stop stealing and devouring all of my snacks, even finding and eating the ones that I try to hide from him, leaving me with nothing when I'm trying to find something to eat. And at this point, I'm seriously so frustrated, and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm responsible for purchasing groceries and any other food-related expenses for our apartment. This includes any Uber Eats or any like meal prep services that we utilize. In Ontario, right now with the price of groceries, that is no small expense. For example, a bag of grapes is $12 or is $20 for the smallest beef roast that Walmart carries. My partner and I crave salt more than we crave sweets, so occasionally I will purchase some salty snacks for my partner and I, and this is in the form of a couple of bags of chips that are about $4 to $6 each, or on the very rare occasion, 2 bags of popcorn from Cineplex for a special treat. Well, here's the problem as follows. I like to savor the snacks I buy when I have the opportunity to purchase them. If I buy a specific snack for myself, I like to have a couple of small bowls throughout the week because I don't know when I'll purchase them ever again. My boyfriend, on the other hand, tends to polish off any and all snacks that he can in a night or two, and once he finishes his snacks, he inevitably sets his sights to mine and polishes those off too. In fact, this week when I bought snacks on Saturday, I outlined which snacks were his and put aside 1 bag of chips, stating that that bag was specifically for me. I extra splurged this week and purchased a dip for my chips that I never buy anymore, because with rising cost of groceries, it's now priced at like $7 for a small container. My boyfriend ate 1 bag of chips Saturday and finished another one on Sunday. When I went to grab a small bowl of my chips tonight, the bag was missing. When I asked him about it, he said they were all gone. We live pretty much remotely and I only buy groceries once a week. When I told him that I was upset because I haven't even had a chance to have a bowl with my dip after clearly setting the expectation for him not to eat it, he told me to get over it and then got mad at me for being upset. We have lived together for the past 4 years and it's normal practice for him to finish my leftovers or eat off my plate, as I'm not a big eater, but sometimes I just want something that's mine, something that I don't want to have to share. I've tried hiding my snacks in the kitchen before and he always just ends up finding them. I also don't like the idea of hiding things from my boyfriend, but a gal needs her snacks every once in a while. So honestly, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else who has a snack stealing partner, how do you deal with them? How do you ensure you get a little snack when you're craving one? This isn't a situation that will make or break our relationship, but after 4 years, I'm at the end of my snacking rope, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, I have to say that yes, I think you should hide pretty much everything you buy. This guy doesn't care about what is his or isn't his, and it seems like he's gonna eat everything within sight. And I can understand that like occasionally, like if this happened every now and then, I really wouldn't care that much, but it's the fact that he just blasts through everything in front of him, and he refuses to acknowledge that yes, he's the one doing this, and no, this is not okay. That alone is incredibly disrespectful. So first off, I would try to hide things, but if that doesn't solve any of the problems, then maybe it's time to like make a clear line in the sand and start buying separate groceries. Like, it really sucks, you really shouldn't have to like hide stuff from him, but in my opinion, not only should you not feel guilty, but at this point it kind of seems necessary. He keeps eating everything in front of him, all without any kind of like remorse for like taking your food that you wanted. And that in my opinion is completely inappropriate, and he absolutely should know better. My entitled manager ignores my schedule and schedules me on days where I very distinctly told them I'm not available. So I decided to maliciously comply by choosing to ignore the schedule and acting as if I didn't see anything wrong with it. And as a result, I didn't get in trouble, but my manager absolutely did. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at them in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few days ago at my work. I work as a monitor in a company that sells wholesale, and we we have rotating schedules. So if we have activities outside of work, we have to notify them in advance so that we can adjust our schedule. It turns out that this is not the first time that they have told me that I should have given them more notice. So a week before the next week's schedules were made, I informed my leader about all my activities for the month. He clearly didn't like this, so he told me to send it to him in writing so he could remember and consider it for the schedules. And trust me, if it went down like that, then I wouldn't be here posting this online. I needed to rest on a Sunday because that day I had baking classes and to come in the morning on Tuesday. When I saw the schedule, I got angry. As always, she did what she wanted. She gave me my rest on Tuesday, and on Sunday, she left me in the afternoon from 2:30 until 11 o'clock p.m. But here's the thing, my baking class is from 10 o'clock until 5 p.m. So it was literally making me choose between my class and coming to work. Now, I was upset because this wasn't the first time that this has happened, and I always ended up trying to convince other classmates to change my schedule or just go on break so I could do my activities. I was tired of always looking for solutions for the things that she did wrong, and she also had the impotence to take her rest day on Sunday. Well, here comes my malicious compliance. I decided to pretend that I never saw the schedule and I decided to miss Sunday. I hate uploading statuses on my WhatsApp, but I decided that this time it was a special situation, so I started uploading statuses from my baking class. When I saw that my leader saw my status, I knew that I had won. When it was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my boss, who is my leader superior, asked me straight up why I had been absent. I told her that I had not seen the schedules, and that since I did what the leader asked me to do, which was to notify her in time and sending my schedules in writing, I assumed that it had all been respected. I knew that I was going to ask my leader, but I also knew that she has a reputation as a liar, so I knew that she would try to twist things in her favor. So I sent a screenshot of the conversation in which I said in detail about my activities. She thanked me and didn't say anything else. And the next day, I found out that she got advised for that, and I got away with it without any repercussions. Then she tried to justify herself by saying that my boss had not approved the schedule, but it is all inevitably a lie. Now, I know they're not going to pay me for that day that I was absent, but it was completely worth it to watch her get scolded. And let's see if she understands that if they don't respect my schedule, I'm just going to be absent, and I'm not going to try and fix their nonsense anymore. Yeah, I can completely understand where the original poster's coming from, especially when you very specifically tell your manager, hey, these are the days that I can and can't come into work, and then they turn around and do the exact opposite of what you discussed. That is so frustrating, it's not even funny. So sure, what they did was a massive gamble, but clearly it worked out in the end. And I think it all only worked out because you had everything in writing or some kind of proof to prove them wrong later. Because based on what you've described, this person is a very toxic manager. And you can bet, just like the way they tried to do it, they'll twist the words that you said any which way they can, also they could avoid any kind of punishment. Am I the jerk for not taking my neighbor's kid inside when they were lost at night and choosing to call the police instead? Because right now, everybody in the neighborhood is calling me terrible names. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I live in a regular neighborhood. I'm not really close to any of my neighbors. I have a very casual relationship with them where I might say hi every now and then, but then I just move on. And trust me, this will be important later on. Anyways, I was doing a grocery run, I parked my car, I got out, and I noticed a kid on her own wandering around, and I immediately recognized her as one of my neighbor's kids. It's 8 o'clock p.m., and I think she was maybe 8 or 9 years old, so I call out to her to ask why she's out wandering around. She just shrugs at me and looks like she's been crying. I feel awkward and I call the non-emergency line. The operator asked for some context, and I explain how I just came back from the market, I parked my car, and I got out to my neighbor's kid near my lot. The operator told me to ask if she knew where her parents are, if there are any safe neighbors, etc. But the best I got out of her were some random mumbles and some shrugs. The dispatch operator asked if I could stay nearby until the authorities came, and I mentioned that I have groceries to put away, and she assured me that it would be no more than 10 to 15 minutes before someone would come by. During the awkward waiting, the child eventually went up to me and pointed to the grocery bag saying ice cream, but I shake my head and I say no. I tell the kid that we're waiting for her parents because I didn't want to tell the kid we're waiting for the police in case that scared her for some reason. She complains that she wants to use the bathroom, and I say she can wait until her parents come by. Eventually, an officer came, asked for information, went to the neighbors asking around, etc., and the officer asked if I had any snacks that could help calm the child down, but I just straight up said no. I stopped being involved the moment he arrived and I went about my night. Now, here's where I might be the jerk. I got a harsh knock on my door and answered the door to a woman who asked if if I'm the one who reported her child to the police. I tried to explain myself, but she immediately went off on me for being a jerk. How apparently I could have taken her child in for just a little bit and contacted her. I pointed out that I don't even have her contact, and then suddenly she tries to give it to me, but I refuse, saying that I don't care about having her as a contact. She should not have let her child wander around at night. She then yells that her child snuck out through the garden gate, but I just shrug and say that I don't care, that's her problem. Well, right now I'm being bad talked around, as she keeps telling people that I called the police on a kid, which I mean I did, but it's not like I was getting the kid arrested. I just wanted her to be found. I'm being called a narc or a police caller of the neighborhood. I found this out when I was casually waving hello to one of my neighbors, and he said to me, "Don't worry, my grill follows the regulations, don't call the police on me." And he said this in a mocking tone. So honestly, was I the jerk for the way I handled this? Looking back, it may have been cold, but I was just trying to protect myself first. And now I feel really lost and I seriously don't know what to do. In my opinion, the original poster didn't do anything wrong. First and foremost, the only reason this lady wants you to have her contact information is because she's too lazy to be a good parent. Like, the original poster is not responsible for everybody else's kids in the neighborhood. And I feel the exact same way. There's no way I'm about to take in some random kid that I definitely don't know, that I've seen in my neighborhood maybe once or twice, simply because there's just no way I'm gonna allow that scenario to take place. Like, can you imagine the false accusations that can get thrown around so quickly if you do that? It would be one thing if I was really close with a family and these were like family friends or something like that. Like, then and only then would I be like, okay, sit in my car, we'll wait for the cops and we'll get you back to your parents. But this is a kid you don't even know. Like, this mom is delusional if she really thinks that you should take her kid in just out of some principle instead of, I don't know, calling the police. Because honestly, if I'm in that scenario, I'm 100% calling the police every single time. Because the fact of the matter is I don't know this kid. I'm not gonna take this kid in. Like, that is just weird and I don't want that in my life. So no, the original poster is not at fault. I think the mom in this situation is a terrible parent, and the fact that she got caught being a bad parent by the cops is what she's truly upset about, instead of actually being mad that the police were called. So I'm honestly so sorry you're dealing with this, and hopefully you don't have to deal with this lady ever again. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.